We are on.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. The meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Carr,
Present.
Director O'Halloran,
Present.
Director Peterson,
Present.
Director Taylor,
Present.
and Chair Herndon.
Present.
We have 5 present.
I will now ask the secretary to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, please mute your devices.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now have an announcement regarding interpretation for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas noches. Este ajuste escolar se transmitirá en español para aquellas personas que lo necesiten. Para escuchar esta junta escolar en español, por favor marque el número 312-626-6799. Ponga el número de identificación 608-130-5362. Repito, marque el número 312-626-6799. Ponga la identificación que es 608-130-5362. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Pursuant to Board Rule 1.06, this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members may be participating from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public participation as possible, this meeting is being broadcast on radio WYMS 88.9 FM via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak were required to register in advance. I ask those waiting to speak to please remain on the platform until you're called upon. Although we are on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rule of Order, which dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Now, let's begin, Madam Secretary. Item 1, please.
Item 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, action on leaves of absence, the report on certificated resignations and classified retirements, and the affirmative action report. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions and appointments and leaves as listed in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval.
Thank you. Will the administration please present the item?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Herndon and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We're asking for your approval for the monthly personnel items as well as the reporting items before you. Adriel Maddaleni is here with me this evening, and between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions?
You do have Director O'Halloran in the queue.
Thank you, Director O'Halloran.
Chair Herndon, I was just wondering if we can get an idea with the number of hires, what our previous demographics were of the educator workforce, and if there has been any movement. One of the calls that we frequently get is to hire more Black educators. So I was just wondering where that stands in comparison to the past.
Thank you. Administration.
Good.
Chair Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Adriel Maddaleni, Chief of Human Resources. I can tell you we have made significant efforts in trying to increase our recruitment of minority educators. We have different programs, in particular related to our parent-to-teacher pipeline, that has really helped our diversity. I would say the one thing that has helped us the most when it's come to our diversity of our educators has been those parent-to-teacher programs and getting our parents to become educators. That has really helped. In addition to that, we have recruited with HBCUs. That has kind of been a challenge this past year with the pandemic. We haven't been able to go out there and personally do some visits, but we did attend virtual fairs. I don't have the exact demographics of how many of the hires are of color. I can definitely get that to you and have it for the full board and compare it from the past few years. But I could say I'm pretty confident we have made significant strides in that area.
Thank you very much. Is there a follow-up, Director O'Halloran?
Yes, thank you. I would appreciate seeing something before the full board. If you don't have it tonight, that's fine. Just kind of trying to understand where we were and where we're moving. One other question is, do we have a list of vacancies? And are there any trends within regions? I know that's another question that comes up often is, do we have, are certain areas of the city neglected when it comes to hiring? So I just was wondering, have we been successful in recruiting enough educators and other staff members, and are we making sure that's done equitably?
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Adriel Maddaleni, Chief of Human Resources. Yes, we have made a concerted effort to address certain areas, in particular the Central Region, 53206. We've had a variety of initiatives where we have held job fairs that were targeted specifically for these schools. We do our best to prioritize some of these areas. Central and Northwest tend to be the areas that we need to concentrate most on when it comes to our vacancies. So we definitely spend a lot of activity there as well. We do meet with the 53206 principals, and we try to, I don't know if you want to call it like a speed dating thing, where we got a number of our teacher applicants together and then we got them virtually, and then we had the principals, they could do short interviews with each one, and then they could indicate which candidate they like the best, and then they could kind of haggle amongst themselves or who they can get. That was very successful, so we're continuing to do that periodically to really try. We'll call the resumes. We found some great candidates. Let's set up a time where all you guys can get together, interview them virtually, and then get them processed that way. So definitely, I would say those regions tend to always have the higher number, and so we're definitely making efforts to address that.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Thank you. I have a couple questions regarding the recommended appointments. I guess I'll start there and then I'll go to the LTE contracts. So as I'm looking at is it 2R, the Schedule 3, and the ranges, and I'm looking at the specific positions, what creates what's the reason for the difference if it's a 2R and a Schedule 3 position. I don't even know how to really frame this question at this point, but I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, I see a lot of central office-based positions, and then I see what appears to be a school-based position, yet the central office positions are earning higher salaries. And so I'm wondering, like, as we talk about teacher retention, recruitment and retention, and I look at this and I even think about some of the previous recommended appointments, I'm wondering what constitutes the difference between the schedules and the 2R and the positions, the placement, and I guess the scope of work, if I'm asking that correctly. And I apologize if I'm not, but I'm just trying to figure out why the difference in compensation, yet the roles seem more extreme or more extensive than others.
Thank you. Administration, a response, please.
Yes, Chair Herndon, Director Carr, members of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief of Human Resources. You see the numbers, like the 2s, the 5s, that refers to the race code. That indicates the race code. And then the R refers to residency. And so if they're a resident or a non-resident with the district.
Follow up, Director Carr.
As far as the schedules and the ranges, can you break down how that is determined?
Chair Herndon, Director Carr, members of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief of Human Resources. When it comes to our certificated hires, we have a salary schedule that's already identified. So based on your years of experience, you get placed on a schedule. That's something that we review like every year. We have a salary schedule. I would say in the fall, we bring all of the salary schedules to the board for approval. So you can see how they're hired. It's steps. We have steps. So you can be 1, 2 based on your years of experience, and that's how you're placed on there. The only place where we have ranges really is when it comes to our ASC, our administrative staff, where we actually have a range where here's the minimum and the max, and you can kind of just generally get placed in the middle. For our certificated folks, we see the step schedule, look at your experience, and then we put you exactly, this is where you fall on the step. You're at step 4, you're at step 5. And that's how we treat everyone when we hire them. And then as we get years of service, like another year, then you jump up a step from like, say, 5 to 6, 6 to 7.
Thank you. Follow up, please.
Yes. Moving forward, is it possible to have job descriptions with the recommended appointments?
Administration.
Okay.
Chair Herndon, Director Carr, members of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief of HR. Are you referring to the administrative appointments that are on item 2 or number 1? Because right now we have the certificated appointments that are teachers that we have, and speech pathologists, social workers. Those job descriptions we could have, or are you referring to the administrative appointments that are on the next item where the positions are more individualized?
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
members of the committee, the discussion is on item 1. So if the administration could answer that question relative to item 1, because the committee has not introduced or is not in consideration of item number 2 yet.
I apologize.
Okay. Director Carr, would you clarify your question, if at all possible?
Yeah, I think I'm jumping the gun. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I apologize, but I'm just curious to know, like, with the appointments and specifically the names, the positions, and the schedule salary-based ranges. And I apologize. This is a learning curve, opportunity to further develop my understanding. But if at all possible, when we receive the appointments, is it possible to get job descriptions that lay out the details of the specific roles and responsibilities of each specific appointment?
Chair Herndon, Director Carr, members of the committee, I'm taking my cue from Dr. Mann, and I will say for the first item, and we talk about certificated appointments, when we have those job descriptions, we can make those available for teachers, speech pathologists, social workers, if that's of interest. And if there's some discussion on another item, I can happily discuss it at that point.
Thank you very much. Director Carr, hopefully that's sufficient for now.
For
Is
now.
that okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving ahead, Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on? Oh, I'm sorry. I see Director Peterson's hand is up. I apologize. Director Peterson?
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And I just put my hand up, so you didn't miss anything.
I just caught it out of the corner of my eye.
Right. I was curious if we have any data that compares the number of retirements and resignations this year with previous years.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Adrian Matalani, Chief of Human Resources. Yes, I do have some data comparing the past few fiscal years. I could give that to you when it comes to retirements, when it comes to teachers. This past fiscal year that ended, we had 103 retirements. FY20, there was 206. And at FY19, we had 254. And then in FY18, we had 308. So you can generally see that the trend, we had a reduction in retirements over the past few years when it comes to teachers. When it comes to resignations for the teachers this past fiscal year, FY21, we had 235 teacher resignations. FY20, we had 295. In FY19, we had 394. And then in FY18, we had 414. So we are trending in the right direction for teachers.
Thank you so much. Director Peterson, is there a follow-up?
No, just to say appreciate knowing that we're trending in the right direction. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments on this item?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we have no public comments on this item. You do have Director O'Halloran in the queue.
Director O'Halloran.
I move that we adopt administration's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to action on monthly personnel matters. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 2. Action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. The recommendation is that the board, 1, authorize the individuals to be promoted, reassigned or reclassified to receive the salary decreases or increases and be appointed to the classifications indicated in the attachments to this item to be effective upon approval by the board. And 2, approve the LTE contracts exceeding 60 days pursuant to administrative policy 6.23 parent 4 parent B to be effective as indicated in the attachment.
Will the administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are requesting your approval of the administrative appointments, reassignments, reclassifications, and LTE contracts that are before you. and we are happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions on this item? Okay, Director Carr.
Thank you. I'm on the right page now. And I also see the resident, non-resident. So thank you for that information. I completely missed it. If at all possible, can we get or receive job descriptions based on the recommended appointments and LTE contracts?
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, we'll be more than happy to forward the job descriptions to you prior to the full board for these positions that are referenced here in the form.
Director Carr, is that sufficient for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Are there any more committee members that wish to ask questions on this item? Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What will the pleasure be of the committee?
Madam Chair, you do have Director O'Halloran in the queue.
Director O'Halloran.
I move we approve administration's recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 3, action on a request for approval of the job description for chef, the kitchen associate number 2. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached job description to the item.
Thank you. Will the administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee. We're requesting your approval of the job description that is before you. This innovative position is integral in our efforts to support our staff and students in the area of school nutrition. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Committee members, does anyone wish to make a comment or ask a question? Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Herndon. I just wanted to say I am happy to see this. I had it beyond the boardroom town hall last week, and the very main thing that came up with staff, students, and families was nutrition and lunches. So we definitely let them know there are some things that we are doing in the nutrition field and that we are moving along. So happy to see this, Chef. I will also like to move approval of this item.
Thank you. Are there any more comments from committee?
I second. Move of approval.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
Okay, we've got a motion already. So if there's not further discussion, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation for approval of the job description of chef, kitchen associate 2. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 4, action on resolution 2122R-009 by Director Peterson regarding COVID-19 vaccinations. The recommendation is that the board adopt the resolution as attached.
Thank you. Director Peterson, this is, you're the sponsor of this item, so do you wish to make comments right away?
Sure. If there's anybody who's going to testify, we could ask them first. But if not, I'll make a comment.
Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we do have three individuals registered to speak on this item. At this point, it may be beneficial to have Director Peterson to give the rationale for the resolution, which may answer questions for those individuals seeking to speak.
Thank you. Director Peterson, would you please?
Sure. Thank you very much. And I will say a few words, and I'm happy to answer any questions in terms of it after we hear the public. The health and safety of our students is one of our top priorities. And I think we also believe that in-person teaching and learning is superior to virtual teaching and learning. And because of that, we've acted responsibly in requiring masks for all of our students and staff, maintaining social distancing, installing HEPA air purifiers in all classrooms and offices, practicing regular hand washing, testing staff or students who show COVID symptoms, and establishing contact tracing and quarantine protocols, and publicly tracking COVID infections. But in my opinion, while these actions are essential, the recent upsurge in COVID-19 Delta variant and its increasing impact on children tells us that what we are doing is still not enough. We can do more to ensure the safety of our students, staff, and families in Milwaukee. We need to have healthy teachers and staff if we're going to keep our schools open this year. Without healthy teachers and staff, we'll not have healthy students or quality in-person learning. And that's why I put forward this resolution that's before us tonight. I'm asking that the committee support this resolution that directs the administration to examine the legality and feasibility of a policy that requires all MPS staff, and I would add, and volunteers, to be vaccinated. The resolution notes that such a policy would include religious and medical waivers and a provision that anyone without a vaccination would be tested for COVID weekly. Across the country, there's growing chorus of people promoting similar policies. U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona supports mandating the COVID-19 vaccine for teachers and other school staff. White House Chief Medical Advisor Anthony Fauci endorsed mandatory teacher vaccinations this week, saying the country has reached, quote, a critical situation amidst a, quote, major surge of COVID-19's Delta variant. The presidents of the two national teachers unions have also endorsed mandatory vaccinations as long as they are negotiated with the local unions. Unions across the country, Chicago, New York, Boston, LA, Philadelphia, Oklahoma, San Francisco, are all on board. And increasing numbers of businesses are mandating vaccinations as well. Nationally, this includes Disney, Walmart, Google, Facebook. The US military is going to require it, along with veteran hospitals. Even NFL teams are getting in the picture. Both the Las Vegas Raiders and the New Orleans Saints will be requiring all fans to show proof of vaccination or recent negative COVID test. And closer to home, here there is Advocate Aurora. That Advocate Aurora, with 75,000 staff members in Wisconsin and Northern Illinois, are doing so. The Medical College of Wisconsin, Pabst Theater, the Cactus Club in Bayview, and Summerfest are all saying that people have to be vaccinated before they can participate. If our community can worry about and take steps to protect Summerfest goers, I think we as a school board should feel empowered to put health and safety of our students first and support a vaccination requirement in MPS. Let's be clear. This is a life and death issue for staff, students, and families. The data show that this is according to an August 12th issue of the New York Times, the hospitalization rate in Wisconsin among people who become infected with COVID but are not vaccinated is 32 times the amount greater than someone who is vaccinated. And the death rate, unfortunately, is 13 times greater. I ask you to support this resolution, keeping in mind that tonight we are not establishing a policy of requiring masks. but we're directing the administration to investigate the legality and the feasibility and the details of such a policy and to report back to the board so then we can vote on a specific policy. So I ask that you consider voting, supporting this so we can have something much more concrete to vote on in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can we go to the public comment at this point?
Yes. The first speaker we have on the platform to speak on this item is Shonda Davis. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Shonda Davis, Davis.
Please begin your testimony.
Good evening, Superintendent, leadership team, central service staff, and board members. I am an employee. I have spiritual beliefs that I live by daily and am not led to vaccinate. I believe vaccination is a private and personal choice. Currently, vaccinated people are still getting COVID. I don't believe anyone's job should have a right to mandate what people do with their bodies. You only have one, and some things can be reversed. Some people have adverse reactions to these shots. I feel if you don't have any rights at all, at the very least, you should be able to dictate what is and what is not done to your body. I don't believe people should be made to choose between a job they love and a shot. I respectfully and with honor say this should remain a personal and private decision. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Ron Jensen. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Ron Jansen. That's Jansen.
Thank you. Please begin your testimony.
I'd like to start by saying that I think the return to school plan was written from a place of foolish optimism. The situation, since letters were sent out to parents 2 months ago, making them choose between in-school and at-home learning, has changed drastically, as some of us thought it would. Of recent hospitalizations in the Milwaukee area related to COVID, 10% are children, according to WPR. Nationwide, child hospitalizations are at their highest levels since the start of the pandemic, so even higher than last year. Furthermore, I think a mandate would be a great start, but parents currently need to have the freedom to start from home and transition back to in-school learning once a mandate is in place. And to clarify, a mandate is the only correct way to go forward here. In an article put out by TMJ4 today, an MTEA representative was quoted as saying that a plan should include incentives. I have 3 good incentives for that representative and for the board and teachers to keep in mind. 3 incentives of getting vaccinated and following a mandate. Number 1, not dying of COVID-19. Number 2, not infecting innocent children with COVID-19 and potentially causing their deaths. And number 3, keeping your job. If you're interested in keeping your job, you may want to support the health and well-being of the children in your care in the best way possible. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Amy Mizialko. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record and begin your testimony.
Amy Mizialko, Mizialko. Chair Herndon, MTEA would like to remind the board and the administration that MTEA advocated for vaccine incentives in the spring to expedite employee vaccination rates. At that time, the board chose not to take action. Districts all over the country, including DC Public Schools, Dallas, Detroit, St. Louis, Orange County, Broward County, Little Rock, Arkansas, and many others, are using vaccine incentives to encourage staff and students to take available vaccines to guard against COVID. It is our understanding that MPS has received information from the state that it is within their right to incentivize both students and staff to increase vaccination rates. Incentivizing vaccination is an immediate action to protect the students and staff of MPS. The board and administration can and should bring this item to the full board next week while MPS deliberates the longer-term consideration of a vaccine mandate. For 3 weeks, Milwaukee has been in purple, which signifies a rate of extreme transmission within the community. And while the Milwaukee Health Department and the mayor refused to make a simple health order to reactivate the city of Milwaukee mask mandate, it is imperative that this board and administration not fail to take immediate action in the short term to do everything in its power to support higher vaccination rates in staff and students as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that completes the public testimony and the item is back with the committee.
Thank you very much. Does the administration wish to make any comments at this point?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, the administration is recommending adoption of resolution as presented by the author. We had previously suggested an adjustment timeline to present findings relative to the feasibility of implementing mandatory COVID vaccinations for all employees to the October AF&P committee instead of the September AF&P committee. If the author and the committee are amenable, we would be able to present a preliminary report in September to the AF&P committee with some options for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to our committee, starting with Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Herndon. And also, I am on board with this. I was happy to see that it did put in there the waivers and the possibility of looking into legalities for those who have religious and also who have health issues. We definitely know COVID numbers are rising. Also, I just want us to always look at some of those people that may have some other underlying issues that may be preventable and that will not be held against them, thinking that they will not be able to work within the district. That was some of the comments that I heard from somebody. But once again, I do think we should be looking at this more long term, but we have to do something in the short term as of now. So thank you, Director Peterson, for bringing this about. And so I'm hoping next month we'll have more concrete information so that we can vote on that. And thank you once again, Chair Herndon.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. And I definitely support it. I mean, tonight we're just talking about a feasibility study. You know, I'm not asking anybody, although I do ask every time that people get vaccinated. So I think it should come as no shock that I am pro-vaccine. I do have 3 questions that I would like to hear about, and whether the answers come tonight or if they come in September, that's fine. Do we have an estimate for claims that we have incurred related to COVID? Because I think we have a moral obligation to do this to protect our students who are too young to be vaccinated. But I was wondering if we have any understanding about the claims that the health insurance claims that perhaps we have incurred as an entity related to COVID. And I'm not sure if that can be shared at a committee, and if I'm out of line, I'm sure someone will let me know. But I think it is important to understand that this is also potentially, you know, we could be incurring very large claims and we're self-insured. So I would just be curious if do we have that sort of information?
Administration.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, yes, we have that information and we can make that information available to the board.
Okay. My second question is, and so if that needs to come later, totally fine.
Excuse me, Director O'Halloran, for me, it seems your volume is dropping.
Okay.
And it's getting difficult to hear you.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I think I just have a very thick mask on. Okay. And then one of the speakers asked about the incentives, and I had asked about this in the past, whether it was developing some sort of raffle for students, you know, that we could use for scholarships or, you know, incentives for employees. Can you say yes or no? Are we allowed to offer incentives?
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We are allowed to provide incentives for staff and students for the vaccination. but it needs to be reasonable.
Thank you. Is there follow-up, Director O'Halloran?
I agree. I would like it to be reasonable as well. Then my one final question is, have we determined ability to request vaccine status of students? Not saying that I'm requiring it of students, but is that information we're able to, if somebody wanted to voluntarily disclose to us their students' vaccine status, so that once again, going forward, I think this is information that's useful so that we can talk about at some point down the line, mask, do we make decisions about masking based on percentages, or if there is something where a child is, in close contact for more than 15 minutes, but they are vaccinated and asymptomatic, I just think it helps with making some of these tougher decisions. So are we able to receive that information and track it?
Administration.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, as far as during the part of the contact tracing, the contact tracer will ask that question of the student as well as any adult that is, and they can take that information at that particular time. But as far as voluntary, children, I'm sure, could volunteer and give us information, but it's not information that we are directed to collect. And so, and anything absence of that, we would have to check with the city attorney's office to see, could we start collecting such data that is not data that's requested, because this is not, COVID-19 is not one of those that must be reported.
Thank you. I would appreciate if they can give us any insight into that. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Carr.
I move approval for the board to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of, well, we've got the motion now. Is there further discussion? I'm having to change my screen back. Okay, is there further discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Carr's motion to approve Resolution 2122R-009 by Director Peterson regarding COVID-19 vaccinations as originally submitted.
Mm-hmm.
On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 5, action on monthly finance matters, the authorization to make purchases, the informational reports on change orders in excess of $25,000, the report on administrative and school funds transfers, the report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, the report on the COVID-19 expenditures, the report on monthly grant awards, and the acceptance of donations. The recommendation is that the board authorize the purchases as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the monthly finance item. Before opening it up for questions, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to all the generous donors who supported our schools and our students this month. Together, they gave $37,100 in donation. A big thank you to all of our donors this month. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Martha Kreisman for some further comments. Martha?
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. I would like to update the recommendation that's in the item so that it would read, the administration recommends that the board authorize the purchases and accept the donations as listed in the attachments with appropriate acknowledgement to be made on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Do any committee members wish to make comments in addition or ask questions? I see none. So Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public comment on this item.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
I move we adopt administration's recommendation.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to adopt the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly finance matters and update it to include the acknowledgement of the donations. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to the contracts that are before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran.
I have a couple of questions. But I'm happy to move approval if we need that to start the discussion. For the arts at large, it says that it's to fill long and short-term vacancies. Do we know where these vacancies exist? Or are these like in the event that a vacancy should exist? Or is this like something that already exists and we're attempting to fill it up front? Does that make sense?
Administration.
Herndon and members of the committee, I'm going to be turning you over now to Dr. Bowling. Dr. Bowling?
Yes, Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Dr. Deborah Bowling, Fine Arts Manager. So this RFP is designed to do the same thing as the RFP we put forth last year in regards to filling vacancies for visual art. So last year we had RFP 1031 that we had board approval to provide music instruction to the 35 schools that did not have certified music teachers as of September 18th, which was Third Friday. This year, we are asking the same thing, that we provide those services to visual art positions. And after the RFP, there were 2 vendors selected, Arts at Large and T-Bay.
Thank you. Is follow-up, Director O'Halloran?
Yeah, my question was, do we know where those vacancies exist?
Administration.
The vacancies, Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Dr. Deborah Bowling. As of today, the anticipated art vacancies would be Obama, Hawthorne, Metcalf, Starnes, Early Childhood, Douglas, 81st Street, Lowell, Keefe, Elcott, Hopkins Lloyd, La Follette, Durfler, Jackson, Greenfield, Kilbourne, Pratt, and Alba. However, there are 3 of those schools that those are just additional FTEs. They already have a full-time art teacher, and those schools would be Greenfield, Alba, and Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you. Director O'Halloran, is there follow-up?
It's on a similar topic for the violin purchases. Do we have a list of which schools will receive those violins?
That's repair.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, that is for repair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, excuse me, administration, Madam Secretary, I could be incorrect, but I'll look to you to correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of the statistics on the music, art, and FIAD program expansion, I think they were requested in the SASE meeting last week, although I'm not a member of that committee. I was tuned in. And the other thing is the fact that many of the statistics, or we had asked, and I am sponsor of the music expansion, much of that was asked to be reported biannually in the first place. And I expect to be presented to the board in full board based on the SASE meeting request. Am I correct, Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, you are correct. That information was requested to be forwarded to the board prior to the regular board meeting this month.
Thank you. With that, I'll move to Director Peterson.
I think Director Taylor was before me. Go ahead, Director
Okay.
Taylor.
Thank you, President Peterson. Thank you, Chair Herndon. I have a question on the Wheaton Franciscan contracts. If I am reading them right, that is for our students that are into sports. And then also it says the modification because one of them ended, I believe, August 31st. Are we just extending it to next year, August 31st of 2022?
Thank you. Administration, please.
Director Herndon, Chair Herndon, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Procurement Manager. This is the second contract extension that will run from September 1st of 2021 through August 31st, 2022. So it was, the original contract had extensions built in if performance metrics were met, and we are moving forward with the second extension to the contract.
Also, Chair Herndon, I just wanted it to be verified that the contract with them is for our student athletes. Is that what this contract is for?
Administration.
Good evening, Chair Herndon, Lynn Grubb, Recreation Director, and Director Taylor. Yes, this contract services only our MPS student athletes, our high school athletes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Director Peterson.
Yes, I just want to go back to Director O'Halloran's questions about the vacancies and the role of arts at large. What is the relationship? I mean, what is the relationship between the goals of the music plan and the visual arts plan and the arts at large listing of schools that don't have, that are receiving arts at large support? That is to say, did we hire enough music and art teachers to meet our goals that were established previously? And if not, are we still looking for such teachers?
Administration.
Okay.
Chair Herndon, members of the board, Dr. Deborah Bowling. These are the vacancies that have not yet been touched in the expansion. So these are schools that still have 0.2s, 0.3s, and 0.4s that have not been filled. So as the same with the conservatory and the RFP for them this year, they actually were in 30 schools this past year. And that's based on the board, the adoption, saying that we were going to provide supports as we went through the phases of expansion, and that we needed to make sure that those schools that hadn't made it to their expansion year would still have services. Mm-hmm. So this is exactly the same. And for next year, we're looking at 21 schools, so 9 less than last year for music. So we'll be proposing that 21 schools will be having contracted services from the conservatory and 17 for visual art. Last year, any of the visual art vacancies did not receive any contracted services except for 3. So all the rest of the contract of these schools that did not have a visual arts teacher did not receive any services throughout the year.
Director Peterson.
Thank you. Just again, I just repeat I appreciate that information. It's helpful. Did we meet our goals though? I know at the committee meeting, SASE meeting, we said that in the last 2 years, we hired 40 music teachers, which is great. Have we met our goals with music and with the visual art in terms of the plans thus far?
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Dr. Deborah Bowling, Fine Arts Manager. The answer to that is yes. These are positions that have not been part of our goals as of yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to pass the gavel to Director Carr, please.
So noted.
Thank you. Director Herndon.
Thank you very much. One of the issues that were brought up last week in that SASE meeting also was the correlation between schools that did not have the services and their location, which much of it prompted the original resolution, which is the North Side schools that are underserved. And so we still need to make sure that that is a priority, because as the list have been read this year in both reports, it seems like we aren't doing as well as we maybe should be in meeting those targets. So as we have that report prepared for full board, I certainly want that to be identified, because some of the speakers on last week, Thursday, did express some concerns with meeting that criteria. Thank you. And with that, I'll take the gavel back.
So noted.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on the current item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
Madam Chair, you do have a motion by Director O'Halloran, which moves approval of the professional services contracts.
Okay, kind of got lost in the shuffle. Thank you for the correction. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the award of professional services contracts as listed in the attachments to this item, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 7, action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have on the exceptions to bid contracts that are before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to personally ask you to elaborate on the contracts as related to the education centers. I think specifically the community would be very interested in that.
Whoever.
I think it's the camp.
Janine, go ahead.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, the blanket contract for Nature's Classroom Institute of Wisconsin is being requested because the Montessori schools are expanding their use of this program, and we believe that it will further facilitate their curriculum.
Thank you. I was speaking specifically And because I'm chair, I don't have all my notes together, so I apologize for that. But the one where it was the training program that was expanding into JMAC specifically for this year, which I thought was a great opportunity. I just like it to be shared with the community and the board members as well.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Eric Radomski, Manager of Career and Technical Education. So the GPS education partners are coming into James Madison Academic Campus this year to offer their alternative program, whereby the students who enter the program, if they do a 2-year, it's a 21-month program, and some students come in as seniors and do a 1-year program, but they do an alternative program and graduate with their home high school, but they go to school to get their high school diploma, typically in the morning, and then go to a manufacturing facility in the afternoon, and they get paid for both, for going to school and going to work, much like an apprenticeship program would be, and they learn some valuable manufacturing skills. They have a chance to earn a certificate from the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council. It's called a Certified Production Technician Certificate, which is a valued industry recognized credential. They do take some different types of courses while they're getting that high school diploma. They take a blueprint reading course, for example, different technology courses that are going to help them if they decide they want to stay in the manufacturing field. And this year at James Madison, we currently have 10 students enrolled in the program at James Madison, with a goal of getting up to 20 students in the James Madison facility.
Thank you so much. That's exactly the one that I was talking about. Do the committee members wish to make comments or ask questions on this item? Director Peterson.
Yes, I will go back to the first item about the Nature's program, Nature Classroom Institute. I think, first of all, I'm a strong supporter of having our students go out in nature and stay overnight. As a teacher for 5th grade, for many years, I took students up to Camp Upham Woods on the Wisconsin River, and it was a life-changing experience for a lot of students. And so I'm strongly in support of it. My question is this something which the schools, the Montessori schools, raise money for, or in terms of paying for this, or is this something that comes out of their budget or our general budget? I'm just curious because I'm all for us supporting this. I just want to make sure that it's, I'm just curious sort of the finances and how that works. I know it's very difficult every year when we were raising money for going to Camp Upham Woods. It was, a challenge because it's expensive to have kids go up and stay overnight and get food, et cetera, et cetera.
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, we have done it both ways over the years. There are parents that have provided funds. There's also the idea that we have provided district funds to make this happen as well. So it's been a little bit of both.
Okay, can I just?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
This particular program is for the Montessori schools, I assume, which is fine. Is that correct?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary, please. Director O'Halloran.
I didn't know if we had a motion. Do we have a motion?
Not yet.
Okay, I move that we approve administration's recommendation.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the award of exception to bid contracts. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye. Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 8. Action on monthly facilities matters, the FMS awards of construction contracts and professional service contracts, and the report with possible action regarding the air quality study. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached construction contract, professional services contracts, and the air quality report.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we're asking for your approval for the facilities and maintenance contracts that are before you. Sean Kane is here with me, and we can respond to any questions that you may have. But before we do that, we will ask Sean to provide the air quality report for the month. Sean?
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. As part of the air quality report that was attached, there's a list of 38 contracts that we entered in with consultants to update existing engineered data sheets and then also develop new ones. It's part of the process of certain sites that we have. And as part of mentioned this previously, we did this to get ahead of things with the consultant, because eventually we want to do is a testing and balancing report, which is equivalent to a ventilation audit. And that's the next step what we're going to be doing. The other thing that we did just at the last board meeting, there was approval for the 4 integrated project development contractors that we re-onboarded with this. And the intent is we already had some productive meetings with them to not only take a look at these certain contracts as the first step of moving forward with some air quality issues, but we also reviewed our deferred maintenance items related to mechanical systems. So we also looked at the items with them on this. And then again, getting these contracts pulled together, we followed board policy 3.09 through a procurement process in order to expedite things once the ESSER 2 funds were approved at the May board. The next step that we are working with is that we've met with the 4 contractors. We assigned them 5 projects each off this list to get a start, to kind of get their feet wet, see how they're going to handle things. Because again, we got a 2-year relationship that we're looking to do as much as we can as possible to address air quality issues across the district. So right now they have 5 projects each. They came into our archives, took a look at things. Now and then also looked at our deferred maintenance list to see what projects we could possibly tackle. Another thing that they're also looking at is with their consultant team is they're looking at building elevations in our window systems throughout the district. Because again, another thing we want to address is installing bug screens where they're not included at certain sites already. So in all these efforts going in parallel, we're moving forward. Another thing too would be is like this list of sites they're able to work on, they can move forward with the testing and balancing piece to see if what deficiencies we have in our certain mechanical systems. And then also the next step too is these engineering data sheets. We're going to be moving forward with this IDP or IPD contractor as well to keep moving forward to tackle the buildings throughout the whole district. The other thing that we're looking to do is we're recommending as part of this recommendation letter is that we have owners representative services to assist our department for ESSER 2 funds with the Concord group. This is their efforts to assist our project teams with project management, on-site inspection, some expertise related to budgeting, look at cost estimates, et cetera, as we're working side by side with the IPD contractors. In all efforts, we're looking to create a great teamwork and put a framework forward that, again, trying to spend about $100 million over the next 2 years is going to be very challenging. But this is the approach we're looking to do, and we're very excited with the process so far. And really, at this point, that kind of concludes my report. In the future, I'll be reporting, contracts that we are establishing scopes in the future with these IPD contractors, and I'll be more than willing to answer any questions about this or any of the items on the recommendation letter.
Thank you very much. I see hands up already, so if you don't mind, I didn't catch the order in which they went. I'll just start with Director O'Halloran first and just go across the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chair Herndon, and thank you so much for providing detail. I did ask for that last time, and I appreciate that you gave us a list of kind of the schools where the air quality work is happening. It just provides a better understanding of the work that's happening. So thank you for being proactive with that this time. And I was going to ask about the Concord Consulting Group contract. So So as those projects get approved and move forward, will we get regular updates on what's happening? And part of the reason is not just so that the board is approving activities, but I think it's also good to communicate back out to the community about the improvements that are being made. So whether that communication happens at a committee meeting, or if we're doing a good, just promoting it in the community through social media or otherwise, I think it's good to show the community that this investment is being made, and that it's, for the improvement of our students, for the improvement of our staff. So, now that I kind of understand how everything's working in collaboration, I just was wondering, generally in the process, we'll be getting these updates at the board. Is that what or at this meeting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities Maintenance Services. Yeah, that was the intent. And as we start moving forward with the IPD, again, the Integrated Project Delivery Contractor, sorry, I just rather go with the acronym on them, but we're moving forward with those 4 teams, and we're kind of looking at how is the best way we can move forward. Is that we're thankful that we had actually 6 firms that were willing to bid. 4 of them got shortlisted because I'm looking at, we have a lot to do and we got to ride our horses that we got. So we got 4 of them that we're able to work with. And the plan was under kind of similar to board item 5 for action on monthly finance matters. I was going to discuss the matter with the procurement department, see if we could list all the contracts there. And again, not trying to be redundant and doing the air quality report, but list all the items there because the scopes are going to evolve and they're fluid. But yes, they're going to include some consultation, especially from the design services side, working with these firms. And then once we get to a point where we're comfortable with the budget and the estimates that we got, that this is going to be a good project to move forward to address air quality, with the assistance also with the owner's rep, we're looking for some expertise and consultation there, that we will take the next steps that we can issue the contract to move forward aggressively to get, as we talked, it's going to be a huge challenge trying to get as much stuff as we can get done in 2 years. But that's the goal and that's the plan. It'll include testing, balancing, engineering data sheets, deferred maintenance items, bug screens, all the stuff related to air quality.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions from the committee? Director O'Halloran and then Director Peterson.
Thank you. I'll make it real quick. So totally not related to the air quality. The one question I did receive, somebody reached out to me regarding the chilled water at Golda. So I was wondering, so if it's approved tonight and then it goes to the full board, does that mean that we have to wait on air conditioning at the Golda Meir campus? Somebody had said that at a parent meeting last week, they were informed that the air conditioning wasn't working. And I certainly just hope that we're able to find a workaround so that for the next 2 weeks, which August can be very warm, that the air conditioning is functioning for them, since it would be a shame to not have it working right now.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, the chill water agreement is coming up next, and we will be able to answer that. We have the city attorney on deck to answer that question directly for us.
Did you see me just jump ahead? I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much, both of you. Director Peterson.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead too. The Riverside contract, is that on this item?
Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chair, I believe that is the next item as well.
Okay.
Thank you. So moving right ahead, are there any more questions by committee? Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments?
Madam Chair, we do not have any public testimony on this item. If you could give me one quick moment, I will check to see if the Riverside contract is a part of this. It looks like it is a part of this item. So if Director Peterson had questions about the contract, this would be the item to ask.
Okay. Director Peterson.
Okay, I guess I read it right. I'm just curious if we could give a little more detail. Let people know what's going to happen at, I guess, the Riverside Auditorium. Thanks a lot.
Chair Herndon, Director Peters. Sorry.
Go right ahead,
Go
please.
ahead.
My apologies. Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities Maintenance Services. What you're seeing there, it's basically it's a stage auditorium lighting. It's the house lighting that's going to be done inside the auditorium along with the stage. We've doing some of those projects recently. I think we just had one done over at Bayview High School. A couple things, it really enlightens the space, especially for the theater piece, but also it does reduce energy and saves us money with utilities. So it's basically changing everything out for the house lights and the stage lights.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Peterson?
No, thank you very much.
I would just like to say that it is so great to hear some of these facility issues being corrected or in the process to be corrected. It is really fantastic, and I'm sure the community at large is very excited about this as well. So thank you so much. If we don't have any public comment, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Carr.
I move approval of the item.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Carr's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the monthly facilities matters, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 9, action on a request to approve the lease agreement with the Milwaukee Excellence Charter School for the Douglas School located at 3620 North 18th Street. The recommendation is that the board approve the lease as attached to this item.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are requesting your approval for the lease agreement that is before you, and we are happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Have with us this evening Jeremy McKenzie from the City Attorney's Office, and we are ready for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Let's see, next. Actually, what I'd like to do is turn the gavel to the co-chair, please, Director Carr.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a statement rather than having a question. And the reason being is that I was concerned with all the misunderstanding and the misinformation around this item. And so it's not a pro or con that I want to say. I just want to correct the misinformation, because as we go into the community, we're getting bombarded, and the community simply doesn't know the true facts. And so I'd like to share that and then allow the discussion to go ahead. And one of the big things is that I want Milwaukee Excellence to understand that they are an excellent school. None of these discussions has anything to do with their performance, nothing at all. This is strictly business and misunderstanding and perhaps some bad timing or whatever, but it has nothing to do with the performance of the school. They're doing a great, fantastic job. However, the issue on the agenda needs clarification, and that's where our community seems to be lacking. And that is the fact that they don't know what the authorizer of a charter school is. And I want to give clear clarification on that. Sadly, Milwaukee has more than one type, and they also have more than one authorizer. And the city of Milwaukee, UWM Milwaukee, and the Milwaukee Public Schools are authorizers. However, with Milwaukee Public Schools, we have two types of charters, potentially, and we do. And one is instrumentality, which the easiest way to define those is being owned by the district. And the other one is non-instrumentality, which is a private organization. Milwaukee is classified as the non-instrumentality, or Milwaukee Excellence is non-instrumentality, which means that they're simply authorized by MPS, but they are not owned by MPS. And I think that's the big mix-up with the community. The next thing is that as an authorizer has specifically jobs that they are to perform, and none of them require except for an instrumentality by the district, which is the only authorizer that can have that, is the responsibilities for an authorizer are very straightforward, and you can find this on DPI's webpage and also by state statute, which is a charter authorizer is simply to solicit and evaluate charter school applications, and to consider the National Association of Charter School Authorizers principles and standards as the guide, approve only high-quality charter school applications, give contract preferences to charter schools serving children at risk, monitor performance and compliance, which is the biggie of the responsibility. We have a whole department whose job it is to monitor performance and compliance, and to submit annual reports to the state superintendent and the legislator. That's it. We are not required to be in the business of setting leases, although we can, but it's not a requirement. And in this particular situation, the misunderstanding appears to be that the parents, most especially, and the students as well, were under the understanding that we were not doing our jobs as a district and as a board. And that is why I wanted to correct that first and foremost. The other thing is that our administration is working diligently and hard to try to help Milwaukee Excellence to correct this mistake that has occurred under short notice, because we as a board got caught off guard as well. In addition to that, I would ask that Milwaukee Excellence consider this co-location to be a temporary solution for all involved, because we do, although they were opened by prior administrations or allowed by prior administrations, we do have several co-locations, and the road or the execution or the day-to-day activities in those schools appear to have constantly been under duress from both sides or both schools that are housed in the same facility. And it also impacts the students' self-esteem in some ways. And I'm sure many board directors on this board have sat in the audience or on the stage over past years and listened to the complaints from both schools housed under the same roof. So it isn't something that is very smooth sailing. And I understand if administration has gotten kind of, leery about this. So I definitely would ask that the CEO of Milwaukee Excellence and the board of directors, which it would appear that the parents didn't realize exist, if they would work with their parents for a long-term resolution to this problem. That is my request, and thank you. With that, I'll take the gavel back.
So noted.
Director Carr, I see your hand up.
Actually, Director Taylor was before me. I apologize.
Okay.
Can you not see my hand, Chair Herndon?
Yes, but if I'm looking down at my notes, then I don't know which one stuck their hand up first. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you, Chair Herndon. I have a couple comments and then a question. Presently, right now, Milwaukee Excellence is in what I consider the thriving third. And I want to say to the families, because I know that they are watching, and to the staff, and to just Milwaukee community, as board directors, we don't, well, I'll speak for myself. We don't come on here and say we're going to pick and choose because we don't like those students or those families. There has been a lot of misconception. I have been to this school several times. The students there are doing a great job. The educators there are in tune with the students. This situation was something that I believe happened most of the board members being on the board with the contract within the administration. And I wanted the administration to go into that deeper, but I prelude because I really believe this is important to get out because people were so misinformed. Also, I would like to state on the record, because Obama is another one of my schools. I received some emails. Obama was never, as long as I've been the school board director of that district, one of the options. It may have been brought up, but it was not an option for the school to move into that. I wanted that to be clear as well too. My question now is, when we say temporary and we say somebody is moving into a school building for a year, we all have known about the co-locations. I can still hear in my head and remember the text messages and call about room 11 in another co-location. So as I read this agreement and I see that it says all of floor 3, but also to share floors 1 and 2. Have we specifically said what room numbers and spaces that is going to be? Because once again, we all have seen with co-locations how some things were allowed and then it becomes a problem that turns into a bigger problem for the students and the staffs of both schools. So I wanted to make sure that we are absolutely sure of the square feet or space that will be utilized if this is something that passes as well too. And then once again, one of my concerns is when we think about co-locations, it seems to be the partnership schools with those MPS traditional schools. If we're going to think about partnership schools, have we ever thought about, and this is something that I'm just throwing on the floor, maybe partnership schools going into the same locations of other partnership schools, since they are partnerships of MPS and not always with some of our traditional schools? I don't know if it's some type of legalities that we cannot do it, but that is definitely something that I would like us to look more into. So just so I can recap, I would like to know, my 2 questions are, do we specifically have the square feet and the amount of space that this school will be utilized so we do not have another room 11 pandemic on our hand? And number 2, when we think about partnerships or co-locations, is there something in the legal realms that says a partnership school cannot co-locate with another partnership school? Because it seems like we always put them into traditional MPS schools, and that is for administration. And thank you, Chair Herndon, for the leniency.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, as far as putting partnership schools with partnership schools or instrumentality charters with non-instrumentality charters or traditional schools, by all means, all of that is taken into consideration. And there is no policies that preclude us from doing just that. And I'm going to have Sean Kane to kind of walk us through the fiscal plan of Andrew Douglas to kind of talk about the shared space and what is there. Sean?
Thanks, Dr. Posley, Chair Herndon, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. Yeah, what's indicated in the lease agreement is realistically a 10-month deal that goes through June 30th of 2022. And it is a short-term lease agreement. And as part of Exhibit A, that they are only located up on the 3rd floor with the rooms that are identified. The rooms that are not identified, those are not rooms that they're entitled to walk into. We do this typically across the district where we do have cohabitation, that we do have separate keyways and locks. So Milwaukee Excellence will not have access to those spaces on the 3rd floor. So that's where the primary spaces are. On the 2nd floor, the really only sharing is coming down, is utilizing the stairwells. For exit, it's you need as a means of egress. The first floor where you see the shared space that they're working together to cohabitate, sharing the auditorium and the cafeteria. The gymnasium, the main gym, is being designated towards Douglas. The auxiliary gyms are being designated towards Milwaukee Excellence. But as a space you see that's on for the stairwell exiting and corridors, those are considered shared spaces. And the way we do the square footage is dedicated space to the occupant, and then the shared space is a split between the two that are there. So that's what the 66,000 plus, that's what the designated square footage for shared, some dedicated space first floor, a little bit of shared for second floor with the stairwells, third floor is primary or dedicated towards the occupant.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, also with the third floor, there's additional class spaces, 7 additional spaces that not being used at all by Milwaukee Excellence.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Thank you, Chair Herndon, the administration. I have a couple points that I wanted to share. And first foremost, I do want to say publicly that I apologize to the families on both sides, Andrew Douglas, as well as Milwaukee Excellence, the families and the students, the faculty and staff, as well as the leadership that were inconvenienced during this time. The decision to pull this at the very last minute created a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos. And in my humble opinion, it was very much so unnecessary. I want to speak to a couple points. One, I want to start by saying we as board leadership, as the administration, have to continue to reiterate the notion that anyone, any family under the MPS umbrella are public school students. They're ours. When we separate or constantly emphasize one side or traditional schools over charter schools, it does create confusion to our families. That's not anything that they're doing, the school leaders are doing. That's what we're perpetuating through conversations like this, where we have it publicly, we're creating seeds of doubt and confusion. And so I think just to call us out, we have to do a better job at creating that one accord and really communicating that to the public. When Chair Herndon stated that the parent concerns were that we were not doing our jobs, just full transparency, I think we did drop the ball. The decision to pull the issue at the very last minute, the board meeting, the board communications are put out a week in advance. That should have been more than enough time for us to determine what was on the agenda and what was alarming, what we weren't privy to, and then reach out to the administration. We did that at the very last minute. And as a result, many families, faculty and staff, leaders were misguided, were confused, and were really disappointed. I think as we talk about co-locations, we do have to do a thorough assessment just across the board of what that looks like. To Vice President Taylor's point, are there any issues? Has there been any attempts to provide a space where partner schools can co-locate with alternative schools or vice versa? Have we explored that? Have we explored the possibility of leasing out buildings that are not utilized at all to bring in revenue? There's so many underlying factors here that we have to consider, but we do so in a way that, again, inconveniences our families, our children, our faculty and staff. I do want to speak on behalf of the school leader at Andrew Douglas, Ms. Palmer, and she didn't ask me to do this, but I do want to give her a shout out because she's doing an amazing job, especially with the resources and the support that she has there. She was initially excited. And this is all the things that I learned after the fact, but she was initially excited for this partnership. Her and the leader of Milwaukee Excellence had some consistent meetings and had worked.
Madam Chair, I just want to ensure that we are speaking directly to the lease relative to the item that is before you. Given that there had probably been lots of communications back and forth between a lot of people, we typically refrain from conversations being reiterated when the parties aren't present.
Understandable. I'll attempt to correct that. And this is lease. Where I'm getting is we are now presented with a 1-year lease. Prior to making it to this point, there was much excitement, enthusiasm, and plans for carrying out this partnership. I think approving the 1-year lease for now is good, but I think moving forward, long term, we have to do a better job at how we're developing out these contracts, these lease, approving it, presenting it to the community to ensure that we're not inconveniencing any others. But I will speak on behalf of District 4, Andrew Douglas, and Milwaukee Excellence. I am excited about the partnership. Now that I have learned the details, I think that it will work, and I implore the board to approve the 1-year lease. I also want everyone to be mindful of the interruption that this could potentially cause once after a year lease we decide to relocate the school. These are all issues that we have to address internally. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with a statement? One thing I'd like to, Director O'Halloran.
I just want to say, at this point, I don't feel like there's much of an option but to obviously support this. I would not find it conscionable to put children out in the middle of a school year. So I feel like ideology around co-locations, whether based on the lived experience of having fielded these questions and trying to resolve issues over one room, or broader discussions, like at this point, I don't think there is an option. So I am in full support of this. And I don't know how we could not support it. So I just wanted to be clear about that.
Do I see your hand up, Director Taylor?
Yes. Was there a motion made on this item?
No, there was not.
I move approval.
Thank you.
I second.
We don't need a second for committee. Thank you.
I apologize. I didn't know. I second.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I just let it slide. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we have no public testimony on this item.
Okay. We already have the motion. So, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the request for the lease agreement with Milwaukee Excellence Charter School for the Douglas School location at 3620 North 18th Street. On the motion to approve the lease, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
No.
That's 4 ayes, 1 no. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 10, action on a request to approve the second amendment to the chilled water agreement with SP Milwaukee Proco LLC at Golda Meir Upper Campus located at 235 West Galena Street. The recommendation is that the board approve the request for the second amendment to this item.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we're pleased to bring this item forward for approval, and I would like to thank the many individuals who worked very hard to make this happen. At this time, we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. And also Jerry McKenzie from the City Attorney's Office is here with us. Thank you.
Do committee members have any questions or wish to make comments? Director Peterson.
I would like it if the administration can give us some background. This seems to be a very unique arrangement in terms of air conditioning a school.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities Maintenance Services. The arrangement that we've had for getting chilled water is you're trying to get volume of chilled water from a plant to bring in water to the system. We don't have at some buildings where you see like an air conditioning or a condenser system. That's why you don't see something self-sustaining at the certain facility. The SP, or it used to be Schlitz Park, the SP Milwaukee people, or the outfit that's working with us, has been there for a long time. And we originally, previously as MPS, we were leasing at one point, and then the building got purchased by us. We took ownership on that. The chilled water service has been going on since 1992, and we've had an agreement in place for all the way through August of 2015. And at that point, we had, as part of the lease agreement, that you had one extension request that you could put through, that both parties agreed to it. It was suitable, for both parties to move forward and do so. And at the cost of what we were looking to do, if you wanted to build an independent plant for that site and do self-sustaining air conditioning for that building, it's going to cost approximately about $1.3 million. So it's not a very cheap thing to turn over. And then when you're normally spending about $180,000-ish from a utility cost standpoint to air condition a school for about 4 to 5 months a year, that's what you're paying through SP Milwaukee as part of the chilled water agreement. You're still paying for it. Even in the winter months, you're paying for volume. It's like gas. You purchase gas, you're purchasing chilled water. That's how you're getting the volume of capacity from their plant. And then it spikes up during the summer months when you utilize more tonnage and whatnot. And during this process, been working with the city attorney, seeing how we can move forward in the relationship with the outfit that we're working with. So the lease agreement amendment, or actually the agreement expired in August. We asked for an amendment to go through March of this last March. In efforts during that time, we were trying to work with them to do something a little longer term and see if we could do something from a standpoint, if we were trying to create funds to have a capital project in the future to construct our own chilling plant. We're kind of getting to that point, but we've had some hiccups, bumps in the road, however you want to call them, trying to work with the other party's city attorney, because we did have some issues, I would say, at the end of the last calendar year where there was new ownership as part of the people that we're working with. They had a city attorney that was from the South, and they weren't sure about, when we're working with MPS, that they kind of thought that we couldn't act on the as part of this for the city. These the school board directors, you guys have that capacity to do so. So that was some of the legal arrangements that they're trying to work out. The state, yes, Milwaukee school board directors has the ability to look on the school's behalf through the city to move forward with this agreement. So that's when it's been a little bit messy, because the person that we're, like I said, working with, the previous attorney, he was somewhere from the Midwest. They had more of a relationship working. So that was part of the issue, where we had new ownership that we're trying to work through that. Now we're in March, and we're trying to get this extension worked through, and it's been challenging. And we've been trying to get month after month to work it out with the other attorney and the other party. And just no success. At this point, we finally do have something in place, and it's been not an easy process, but we've been trying to do the best we can to get this punched through.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions by committee?
Just
Director Peterson.
Excuse me for not reading it thoroughly. So how long is this new amendment good for?
Administration?
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, this agreement goes for 3 years through March 31st of 2024. So realistically, we're extending it from the previous. We're putting an amendment in place because we'd have to draft an entirely new lease agreement. So that's why we're trying to do an amendment from the previous.
Thank you.
Is there more follow-up, Director Peterson?
Okay. That would be it. Thank you.
Director O'Halloran.
I'm just trying to understand this timeline now. So this is my question. Somebody had contacted me last week, asked about this. This was the first I had heard of it. So if we can execute this agreement, then there would be, the services would be available to students in this year, but it would be after, am I understanding that correctly? After the full board meeting? I just, like the one time you really need air conditioning is like the last 2 weeks of August, you know? So it's a timely concern. So I was just wondering if you can speak to the timeline.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, I'm going to refer to Jeremy McKenzie on this one as well. Jeremy?
Good evening, Chair Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Assistant City Attorney Jeremy McKenzie. As Dr. Mann well knows, and all of you board members well know, the Milwaukee Board of School Directors full board meetings is the approval which makes things, final and official for, your approval and powers and how that goes. I will say that I will, between now and the board meeting, work with Sean and Dr. Fine.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
That sort of respects the fact that full board.
Madam Secretary, we're having some technical difficulties here.
Jeremy?
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, and basically, I think Jeremy was just sharing that the board's final action at the end of the month is what we operate off of as far as approval, and that he's going to get on the phone right away along with Sean and myself to work out to see can we get this resolved even before that particular time.
Thank you very much. Are there
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Members of the committee, I thought I also heard Jeremy say that, we would be making sure that the contract would be available for the board to sign so that effective upon board approval, there could be execution. Given that there is some prep work that goes into execution outside of the board's signature, I believe that the explanation would be that would all be worked out so that upon board approval, things can move forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, what is the pleasure of the committee? Director O'Halloran.
I move we adopt administration's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, would the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the Second Amendment to the Chilled Water Agreement with SP Milwaukee Propco 1 LLC at Golda Meir Upper Campus located at 235 West Galena Street. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 11. Action on the request for authorization to submit a waiver of the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction parental consent process relative to the intra-district transfer services. The recommendation is that the board authorizes submission of the waiver as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, We're requesting that you approve the request to submit a waiver to DPI regarding intra-district transportation services. At this time, I will ask David Solifaferi to provide some additional information. David.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, David Solik-Fiferik, Director of Business and Transportation Services. Good afternoon. Milwaukee Public Schools would like to execute a waiver request for the parental consent process specified under Wisconsin State Statute 121.58, which requires MPS to obtain valid signed parental consent forms for at least 95% of the intra-district students transferred to a school outside of their school attendance area. The district was unable to administer the process, the parental consent form execution process for the FY21 school year, which went from August of 2020 to June of 2021. The inability to perform this task reflects first the challenges in distributing and obtaining parent signatures and collect the parent consent forms due to restrictions in face-to-face interactions for the FY21 school year. And also, number two, the fact that students in FY21 were not transported at all for the school year through April 13th of 2021. And so in order for MPS to have this waiver, this requirement waived for the 2020-21 school year, the Board of School Directors must submit a waiver request in writing as specified under Wisconsin Statute 118.38. But before requesting the waiver, the school board shall hold a public hearing. And so the purpose of this meeting is to obviously hold the public hearing and then request the waiver so that we can proceed with the request to the Department of Public Instruction.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments on this item? I see no hands up. Madam Secretary, do we have public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Thank you. I don't know who had their hand up first.
Director Carr.
Okay, Director Carr.
I move approval of the item.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Carr's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to authorization to submit a waiver of the Wisconsin DPI's parental consent process relative to intra-district transportation services. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 12, the report with possible action on limited term employees, the July through June 2021 report. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Will administration please present this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, in alignment with Administrative Policy 6.37, the semi-annual LTE report is before you. Carol Edie is with me, and together we can provide any answers to any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to ask questions or make comments? I see no hands. So with that, there's no further discussion. Do we have public comments on this item?
Madam Chair, there's no public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Since this is the last item on the agenda, I guess if there's no further question before the committee, this meeting is close to being adjourned. Okay. I guess there's no further business, Madam Secretary. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.
So noted.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.
Aye.